Before we begin today's episode, I'd like to thank the Nautical Society of Saint-Tropez for the use of their clubhouse to record this podcast.
Welcome to Into the Depths, a new podcast from ROCKWOOL. As SailGP moves around the world, we follow Denmark SailGP Team and we explore the cities that SailGP visits, and we meet interesting people along the way. And today we have a very interesting person with us, Anne-Marie Rindom, Denmark SailGP Team athlete and Olympic gold medalist. Welcome to Into the Depths.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And we're in Saint-Tropez today. It's a sunset session. We've just finished day one of racing in SailGP. Quite interesting racing out there today. What did you see on the water?
Oh yeah, definitely. We had a nice sea breeze coming in, very light, so they only had 3 guys up. Very puffy as well, very tricky.
Well, we'll get to SailGP a little bit later, but first of all, I think it's almost 5 weeks to the day since you won Olympic gold. How's the roller coaster been? Tell us what it's been like since that day in Tokyo.
Oh, my world has been upside down ever since. I was straight into SailGP in Aarhus, and then just trying to book a lot of presentations and tell my story about my experience at the Olympics, my journey to the Olympics. Just really, really busy. I started university again, which has been interesting. But I'm happy to be back and enjoying life.
And does it feel surreal? Has it settled in yet that you've actually won that gold medal?
It definitely took a while. But I think now, after having more sleep, I actually I feel more normal now, and I can look back at it and I was like, it actually happened. But it's still surreal that it happened. It's crazy that your biggest dream has come true.
Before we chat more to Anne-Marie about her success in Tokyo, be sure to check out the other episodes in this series, including Alex Bellini, Italian adventurer, explorer and sustainability campaigner, as we follow his 10 Rivers, 1 Ocean campaign. Also, don't miss our interview with big wave surfer and Red Bull athlete Andrew Cotton, who reveals his fight to return from a devastating back injury sustained at the home of big wave surfing, Nazaré. And don't miss out on Vikings superstar Alex Hu as he talks about his latest film and also his experiences on the SailGP F50 boat. To watch, head to our Beneath the Surface YouTube channel, or to listen, you can head to Apple Podcasts or Spotify. In the meantime, let's rejoin the conversation with Anne-Marie about her golden summer in Tokyo.
But it almost didn't happen. We have to talk about what happened in Tokyo. So you went, for people who've not followed your journey, you went into Tokyo, one of the favourites to win gold, if not the favourite. You had a very good year in 2019. You won the Worlds, the Europeans, World Sailor of the Year. 2020 was a bit of a strange year. The Olympics got postponed, but you went in really strong form and confident, right, when you went to Tokyo?
2019 was a perfect year for me, and going into 2020 was obviously very important. And then when the lockdown came, we were in Palma and we had to go back, and we didn't really know what was happening. And I've been sick quite a lot actually in the beginning of 2020, so I think I was actually lucky that it was a postponement of the Olympics, because that only made me stronger in that year. And we have a pretty strong group in Denmark with the radio girls, and they were just pushing me all year, and I think we nailed the winter being in Lanzarote for a long period of training. So that was really good.
But how do you respond to that when the Olympics was postponed? It was kind of on and off. There were a lot of rumors about the Olympics, but when you've been working towards that for 4 years, the whole preparation is built around peaking at the right time. So it's quite a challenge to just move that by a year, right? How do you respond to that? And how mentally do you kind of tackle the fact that it's not happening now, I need to go for another 12 months?
I mean, I'm not going to lie, in the beginning it was quite hard. And I think I got a little bit of a delay because when it got postponed, I was maybe sleeping for 2 hours for 2 weeks. But then it started to settle in and I was like, okay, we're actually going to continue for a year more. But when you like what you do, it's not as bad. I like my job, and to continue one more year just with all the girls on the team, that was that was actually amazing. And also helping the youngsters from Denmark, having one more year to kind of give them something also. It makes them stronger for the next Olympics. So all in all, it was a great experience. But it was tough for some months. But then we came over that hurdle, and then it turned out really great.
So fast forward, summer 2021, Tokyo finally comes around. You arrive in Japan, and it's all going well. The first few days, talk us through kind of your first experiences of the Olympics, the first races. It's going pretty well.
Yeah, so the preparation going into the Olympics, I think we absolutely nailed it. I was sailing super fast. I could see on the data that I was sailing in average speed 0.2 knots faster than everybody else, and I took some really good decision. Didn't have any drops, but then on that Black Friday, the 5th day of fleet racing, everything just was turned upside down. I got my second yellow flag on the second race, and the first race was not that good. I think going into that day, I knew that I could finish it, and I think that put a lot of pressure. I put a lot of pressure on myself, and everybody else put a lot of pressure on me, and that was just very hard to handle. And I think when you're just a human being, you fail sometimes, and it was just not my day going into that day. Yeah.
So for people who didn't follow that journey a little bit, so you went into, I think it was the Friday of racing.
Yeah.
And you actually could have won gold early, essentially. Or you could have won gold that day, right?
Yeah. I was 22 points ahead going into that day. And if I'm just 20 points ahead after that day, I would have won already before medal race. So obviously that puts some pressure on, because in medal race you have double points. So a lot of things can happen. You sail close to the shore. It's very tricky inside there. And if you can just be 20 points ahead, you can like cruise through medal race. And that's the biggest dream. And me and my coach have been talking about, if you sail your best, and you'll find yourself in a position where you can finish before medal race. And I think that was just something that I had in my head. And sometimes when everything goes well, you can be a little bit too greedy instead of just sailing like solid races. And what they say, it's like perfect is the enemy of the good, right? So you want to make everything perfect, but actually you don't have to make it perfect. You can just sail good racing, solid racing, and that will be enough. And I just didn't manage to do that day.
So tell us about the yellow flags that you got. For people maybe who don't follow sailing and may not understand exactly what a yellow flag is or how it comes about. So tell us kind of how the day went on the Friday when you arrived. It could have been the day. It could have been the day that the dream came true, really. You've been working towards this dream for 12 years, 3 Olympics. Could have been the day for you. How did you feel when you woke up that day? What's the first thing that you felt when you woke up?
I actually felt normal. Like we had a pretty strict routine on how we're gonna like start the day. Speaking to my psychologist, my sports psychologist, and going through like just normal stuff like what are you experiencing in your body today, talking about what's your fears and what are you nervous for, and I felt pretty relaxed. And then going out to the race course, my compass didn't work, and I feel like my coach was kind of stressing out a little bit, but I borrowed my compass, a spare compass that my training partner had, and so I got over that hurdle quite easily. But yeah, obviously that's also a thing to consider. But then going into the race, I had a pretty good start. I kind of split from the group, which was not a part of the plan. So already there, I could feel that I was not, I was not acting on the things that I should and what we agreed on, me and my coach. But then it was actually a good start and a good first upwind. But then I kind of dropped, and my speed wasn't the best. And then I got a first yellow flag. And it is, if you can get one, where you have to spin around yourself 2 times, so make a 720. And then when you get the second one, you have to go out from the race. But what happened was that I got the first one in the first race. That was all good. I could finish the race. And obviously I didn't do very well because I was sailing that. I was not sailing so fast, and I got a spin. I had to spin around. Finish that race, and I didn't really I didn't speak it through with my coach, and we had very little time between the races because of TV. So going into the second race, I was kind of like pumped, and now I just had to finish it. And then I got the second yellow flag in the first start of second race, and then I have to leave the race. So at that time, I completely zoned out. I just felt like, that, I almost cannot like describe the feeling, and I can feel that I'm getting emotional about it, because I was just sitting with my head in my hands and just thinking, what have I just done? Like, how can 4 days of just amazing sailing just turn into this breakdown on the fifth day, and also to the whole world? Like, I've been through it last year at the Europeans, where everything just went wrong on day 5, and I ended up having a silver medal instead of the gold. So I kind of felt like, why it cannot happen again? Why is it happening again? So I sailed down to my coach, and he didn't really want to talk to me, which I found weird, because I was crying a lot and and kind of like, why are you not comforting? Like, why are you not giving me a hug? And then he screams to me and he says, I think you can sail. And what happened was that when I got the second yellow flag, there was a general recall. And that means that everybody has to go back, because they have to do a new start. And when that happens, you can actually sail with the race, because there is a new race starting.
So it resets that.
It resets the second yellow flag. So he yells that to me, and then the 4-minute guns goes off. And when there is 4 minutes to the start, you cannot speak to your coach. And in my mind, you cannot sail the race. But when he yelled that, I was so confused. I didn't know if I should go or if I shouldn't go or what was happening. So I sailed up to the starting line, and I kind of like was doing some signal to my coach just to have a clear answer, but he didn't do anything, and I kept sailing, and I just made the start, actually a very good start. And then I was just like, no, it can't be right. I cannot sail this race. There was just something in me that told me you cannot finish this race. So I decided to just leave the race and sail down to my coach, and he said to me, he was also crying at this point, and saying that I could have sailed the race. So yeah, that was very devastating that day, and just very, very heartbreaking for everybody on the Danish team.
So that day is now known as Black Friday.
That is known as Black Friday.
But
yeah, a day that I'll remember for the rest of my life.
And it must have felt like one of the lowest points of your life, if not the lowest point. For perspective, 12 years of daily work towards this goal.
Yeah.
And it's there, and you kind of feel like you've blown it, I guess, at that point. Or you've blown a big opportunity to at least make it happen.
Yeah. It felt like I just failed everybody. And I think the worst feeling was actually letting my coach down. I know how much he sacrificed for so many years to get us where we wanted to be. We talked about how this could actually be not an Olympics just to win. And it maybe sounds a little bit like over the top, but for us, it just, because I knew that the training was going so well, we kind of knew going into the Olympics, this will not just be winning, it will be like dominating an Olympics. And that was the dream. And then to be like going out from that day and not be secured the gold medal was just, it was so heartbreaking. And to see like a grown man crying that much was just like, wow. I'm never gonna forget that. And sailing into the harbor, meeting all my friends, and they thought that I was going in because I won before the last race. And it was just like such a weird feeling, getting people that filmed me and everybody saying, hey, yeah, so did you win? And then like immediately they could see that something went wrong, and I fell to the ground and I couldn't pull my boat up, and I was just actually just sitting with my head in my hands just on the ground and just crying and couldn't move. I was just completely paralyzed because I didn't know how to react to this. I've never ever tried this feeling in my whole body that everything just, like your whole dream, everything you worked for, so many things you sacrificed, your friends, your family, they just, to let them down and to the sponsors, to the sport director, everybody who's just on a team with you, and to let them down, that was like the worst feeling I've ever had to feel. And just feeling that maybe this goal that you set for your life, you know, you don't have many opportunities. It's like every 4 years you have an Olympic year, and maybe next Olympics I'm not going to be where I am right now. So this felt like it's either now or never. So, yeah.
It's strange because obviously most people, including myself, can't relate to how it feels for that to happen on the world stage where the whole world is watching and you've put so much work into it. But I guess a lot of people can imagine how it would feel to have like a work project go wrong, or school go wrong, or a relationship or something like that. So when you're in that dark place, how did you turn it around? Where did it begin from that moment? You're on the ground. What happened next? Where did you go?
Well, I think the most important thing is that I had friends around, and they came and gave me a hug, and to have that relationship like with your friends, it's very important in moments like that, because it feels like you're not alone. So to be able to, you know, I haven't had a hug in a month at that time. Because of COVID, and just having a hug, and you know, somebody told me that, you know, we didn't know the rule as well, because obviously that was a big factor in the thing that we actually screwed up that day, was that I didn't know that I could sail. And to be able to be a professional sailor not knowing the rules, it is a sport. Sailing is a sport with the most rules of all sports there is. But obviously that is not an excuse. You have to know all the rules when you're going into Olympics, and that you've been sailing the boat for 12 years. But having somebody, a professional sailor, saying to me, I didn't know the rule either, that was quite important for me. And my sport director saying, you know, not even the rule expert on our team knew the rule before. And that was like, okay, I'm actually, you know, I shouldn't feel so bad about it. So they gave me some hugs, and we kind of like disappeared from the harbor as soon as possible, not to affect the rest of the team, because everybody else was also sailing the Olympics. So it was important for us not to get them affected by my situation, because they still had to sail really well. So we disappeared from the harbor, went back to the hotel, me, my coach, and my sports psychologist, and we just talked it over. For like, I don't know, the whole evening. We just talked about, you know, how we could have made it different, and talking about, you know, actually we were focusing a lot about, it's not over yet. I'm still 7 points ahead, which is a lot. Like if I knew before the Olympics you're going to go into medal race with 7 points lead, that's actually a lot. So just focusing on that. And then my sports psychologist said something to me that I'll never forget. And he said, you know, you should try and just laugh. And my coach was like, no, you should just stay in your room, you know, stay away from everybody. But he said, no, you should actually just go down to the food hall, getting some dinner, trying to laugh, and just trying to have a good time tonight, so your body will forget. I don't know if you know that exercise where if you smile for 30 seconds, you will be happy because you get some endorphins in your body. And I think that's very important, and that's why you have a guy like that on the team, to kind of guide you in the right direction. So I went down to dinner with my chin up, and you know, people were asking, all the friends and my colleagues were asking, you know, are you okay? And everybody was being super nice to me, because they knew that I was doing really well, and many of them was kind of hoping that I would win. Even Josephine from Sweden, who got the silver, said to me, you know, you're the right winner. So that filled me up with love, I guess. Yeah.
So I guess the words that you got in that moment were super important, but also you've been working with a sports psychologist and with the sport director and your coach for a long time. So I guess there was a foundation there that, even if you didn't really know it, it prepared you for that moment when it all went wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, and the fact that we that last year at the Europeans, I kind of went through something similar where I didn't have the opportunity to come back and show that I could still win the goal. But this time it was kind of like yeah, okay, I had a rest day the next day to go through all the rules. And that was kind of like my goal. Now I have to go into medal race and just know all the rules, go through my routine. Not change too much about the sailing, because the sailing was still good. And then just trying to execute what we came there for, just trying to sail good and then just make the plan happen. And that's what we did. And I think, just the whole team around me helped that I could get into that state of mind instead of feeling that I was already beaten, then just going into the medal race with the feeling that, no, I'm still 7 points ahead. I can still turn this around and come away with the gold medal. And I remember talking to my sports psychologist and my sport director, saying that, for them it was hard to know what to say to me, because if somebody's crying in front of you, it's quite important what you say to that person to be able to guide her in the right direction, him or her. So yeah, obviously that 48 hours was quite important in terms of having the right attitude on the team for me to be able to perform on that Sunday.
But even being able to talk it through and, get into a better headspace, laugh, joke around, relax a little bit, you still wake up on Sunday and you've got a big challenge on, How did you get the game face on the Sunday? Or did you find it easy to slip into kind of machine mode and just, did you not think? Were you thinking, or did you not think at all on the Sunday?
Well, to be honest, I was super tired on that Friday evening from all the emotions going through your body. So I slept quite a lot on Saturday. And then I felt, obviously I felt the pressure waking up Sunday, but I felt like I was fully back, and then just focusing on what I had to do and taking one step at a time, instead of focusing so much about the result that I just want to get the goal, then more about the process. Okay, what do I have to do the next step? Okay, I have to be here, get it clear with all my equipment. Okay, we're going out to the race course, checking on everything, and just making sure that all the points, that I have that in my head. Like small things like that can actually take some pressure off from the actual result. And then one thing I also remember was speaking to my sports psychologist about, is just to go out there and just like show the generation for young sailors at home, going out and show, sailing is fun. You can inspire them, and that's the most important thing, actually. It's not all about winning, and just coming back to those values, that who do you want to be as a sailor? That was really important for me, and who I want to be as a sailor. Some of my values is like, be brave. So be brave enough to go into a medal race, do what you want. Okay, if I want to have the pin and start, I go for the pin and start. Don't be afraid. So be and then be respectful also. So if you don't win, be respectful, because somebody else was better than you this week. So that was quite important to just remember those values and go for it.
Luckily, you didn't have that problem, because you did win, or you did win the gold. Not many people in the world have won, or in history have won, an Olympic gold medal. So how did it feel to actually achieve the dream?
Yeah, overwhelming, to be honest. Like, it felt like surreal, and for quite some time it felt like it didn't happen. That sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, oh wow, it's not a dream anymore. It actually came true. But it also didn't feel like that I done it, because I always looked up to other sailors who did it and dreamt about it and was working hard towards it. But when it happens to yourself, it feels less than those people who did it. So I feel the same.
What was
I guess.
What was the day like though after the race then? Like, give us a behind the scenes look at the day.
I mean, we had fun in the evening. I've never ever, coming back to my coach, I've never seen a grown man so happy. He was so happy, and how much he sacrificed the last 9-10 years that we worked together. He had twins coming on the way. The due date was like a month after the Olympics, so we were kind of worried that it was happening in the middle of the Olympics. And I think he's just seeing that was just that I think that was the best moment of the whole week at the Olympics. Just seeing a grown man being so happy about something that happened. Yeah, that was the best. To just give him that we actually succeeded with all the goals that we set 10 years ago. I am so proud to give this to my coach, yeah, because it's been such a long journey, and to be able to, after what happened Friday was just devastating, and he just truly deserved to have this around his neck, because we've been working for it for so many years, and it's as much his medal as it's my medal, so it just means a lot to me.
And I guess in the laser you sail alone. Ultimately, it comes down to you, whether you win or lose. But there is a big there's a big team behind you with the coaches, but also in the Olympic team. So the transition to something like SailGP is not that different, I guess, in that respect.
I think in terms of like performing under pressure, because when we're out sailing in the F50, you have to perform under pressure. And I think in that term, it's not so different. For me, where it's more different to the laser world is just being more people on the team that actually has to work together to be able to execute your strategy, and how like the guys are different. Like somebody's nervous, somebody's not so nervous, and something is. It's just to getting on the same like kind of like mental state before going into racing. That is something that you can work on a lot, and that's obviously very new to me. So, yeah.
But so before you actually went and won gold at the Olympics, you joined Denmark SailGP Team, came to Bermuda in April, right at the heart of the final Olympic preparation.
Yeah.
So not exactly great timing, but. That was your first experience of the F50. So what do you remember from that day of going on the F50? Because for people who don't follow sailing, going from a laser to F50, it's almost a completely different sport. It's on water.
Yeah.
But what are the basic differences, to from being on a laser to being on an F50?
Well,
are there any similarities?
Well, other than that, you're more people. That's obviously very different. But sailing the boat also, you go from like my average speed at the Olympics was 5.02 knots, and the first day in Bermuda we were going 45 knots, which is like a lot more. And just to feel the forces on the boat, it's a little bit different. Kind of like sailing also, the strategy is different, but I think as soon as we learn how to sail the boat really well, that everything is automatic, then I think it will be more and more and more strategic and more tactics that we will be talking about on the team. And I think that's where I can maybe come in and then start to talk about that. But we definitely need to learn how to sail the boat the fastest. And that's also, if you are the fastest, you can kind of like do whatever you want on the race course. You can go to the right, you can go to the left, you have more options. So that's actually the point where we want to go.
So ROCKWOOL started to sponsor the Denmark team in 2019, late 2019. And I guess you were kind of, even before you got the call to see whether you were interested in being part of the team, you were following the project, right? You were watching SailGP.
Yeah.
So what were your impressions of SailGP from afar?
Well, obviously SailGP is like Formula One, like kind of answer on sailing, for sailing. So of course you wanted to to see the races, because it's the most exciting races there is, and to just be able to see the guys. Like the whole season we were following it at every event, and just something that goes so fast on water that you never seen before. That's just, that's something that I think all sailors have a dream to go into. So when I got the call to go on this on this pathway program for female sailors, I just I had to say yes, even though it was half a year to the Olympics.
And it's a big, steep learning curve and a big challenge. But yourself and Katja Salskov-Iversen, who's also an Olympic sailor, is also part of the team. You've known each other for a long time through the Olympic team. So, how have you found the first few months of being around the team, and what has surprised you about SailGP or about the Danish team?
There's a lot to learn for me, and I had a 1 week in Bermuda, and then coming back straight after the Olympics, just going into Aarhus event, it was like, it's so crazy. There's so many things to learn. Just to get the boat in takes like an hour and a half, and then before you can actually get sailing, all the checkups that you have to do, and there's a lot of safety on the boat that you have to be very aware of. Where sailing the laser, I haven't been scared sailing in laser probably for the last 8 years, so that's definitely different. There is much more checkups, and yeah, it's very hard to compare those two things. But with me and Katja, it works really well to keep both of us in the loop for this season, because we can learn so much from each other and talk about it. I think going into the Danish team, that's great. They're super welcoming.
And I know you're very passionate about, thinking about the next generation as well, and inspiring other people to try sailing, because you're actually you just love sailing as a sport. And so you want people to try sailing and experience what you've experienced, I guess, since you were a kid. Why is it important, do you think, in events like SailGP that they bring in these initiatives like the Pathway program, which, can be controversial at times because some people think they're the right thing to do, some people don't. Some people think that the execution of the program is right or wrong, and so they can be a bit controversial. But why do you think it, overall it's a good step in the right direction?
Yeah, a lot of people has different opinions on how it could be done, and I to be honest, I think that it could be done in a lot of ways that could benefit everybody. But it's a good program because it closed the gap between men and women in professional sailing. So if we can close that gap and help more women into professional sport and show like the young generation on, it's actually possible to get into sailing, and also showing a different direction. Like it's Olympic sailing, for example, it's not for everybody. So if you can go into like big boat sailing, more like a professional kind of way, then I think this project is it's perfect for it, and it has to come from the top. So for the SailGP to say there has to be a woman on board, making a rule like that, I think that will be the best way to do it, and then the women can inspire the young generation to go after that. So that's really important. And we all know when we were young that if you have somebody to reflect yourself in, to look up to, like a role model, it's so important when you are young. Yeah.
I think one of the cool things about the female athletes in SailGP as well is beyond our team, you've got people from all different disciplines in sailing. So you have kite surfers, you have Hannah Mills, who's the most successful sailing female Olympian ever on the British team. You have round the world sailors, big boat sailors. So you have a lot of different experiences coming together. The female athletes in SailGP are you have a good relationship with everyone across teams as well, right? And in terms of working together and with the league and with the guys on the existing teams to try and move things forward in the right way.
Yeah, and I think everybody is very keen to help each other make this program happen. And all the female sailors, they are so skilled in different ways. Some come from Olympic sailing, some come from kite foiling, who's now on the Olympic program, and just having different backgrounds. And I think that creates just like, so we can share knowledge, and then going into the SailGP, we can share that, and then becoming the best sailors in the world at this. So yeah.
What do you think needs to happen for it to really make a lasting kind of impact, this program? Is there anywhere that you think it can improve, or?
Well, the Danish team has been awesome in letting me and Katja being in a simulator and being on the boat as much as possible, and kind of like they're really welcoming on the team, and also putting us on different jobs that is also like harder jobs. And I think that's really great for our developing. But I think next year there has to be some kind of rule that a girl has to be on board.
And looking ahead, you're in SailGP now. It's full on with everything going on with SailGP. I'm sure you've been asked the question already many times. Is the Olympics over for you, or are you going to make a return and defend the gold medal?
Well, I can't answer that. I'm still in a thinking kind of state right now on what I want to do, and it's not so straightforward. I think because obviously I'm still really keen to be in a competitive sport, and but I also feel like I've now sailed the laser for 12 years, and I'm looking for more different challenges. I think the dream could be that if I can continue with SailGP, or maybe coming back for the laser for another Olympics, but doing a late campaign could also be an option to run those two things together. Yeah,
So keeping the options open.
keeping
Right.
the options open.
Well, I think you're allowed some time to not think for a while at least, and just relax and enjoy the medal. Okay, well, thank you, Anne-Marie, for your time and for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing a Saint-Tropez sunset with us. The light's fading, so I think we'll call it a day for this episode of Into the Depths. But you can follow all the latest from Denmark SailGP Team at SailGP Den on our social channels. See you soon.